Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundlesssuccess to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
And welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And I think this is very interesting because someone was commenting on what happened with Colbert and how it happened. There's many reasons, but how they kind of were just anointed. You had Carson back in the day, Letterman. They kind of earned their chops to get to where they were. Colbert was just kind of giving it, as well as some of the other, let's just say, late night comics. But it's also interesting to me that Colbert's claiming that he's a victim, which is part of the liberal ideology and mindset. But how are you a victim, Dr. Lopkin, if you lose the company that you're employed to bring revenue in? You lose them $40 million. And not only that, talk about bloated government bureaucracy, like a staff of like 200. How does that even happen, Dr. Lopkin? And before I throw it out to you, and we go back, even though you're younger than me, but we go back to Carson, a master class, okay? Funny as hell, picked on liberals, conservatives, and just, I used to go to bed with it. And even I'm talking when I was a kid, like 12 years old. So he could relate to a 12-year-old and a 60-year-old, okay? He was funny. How the hell, a lot here, but how the hell did it descend into oblivion? Not even funny. And before I'm real quick, is I did hear a great commentary 2 years, 3 years ago, whatever, time flies, about how no one even laughs on the show. They just applaud. It's like a rally. A lot there, but you're up for the challenge.
All right, let's start with him being let go in the first place. Okay, there's been a huge uproar about, oh, this is politically motivated because CBS needs government approval for their merger with Skydance through Paramount. Let's take a look at the facts. And you touched on one immediately. $40 million. And just to clarify this isn't that the Late Show lost $40 million. It's that the Late Show lost $40 million every year. So this was a massive money drain for the company. And the company is right now doing a lot of cost cutting. They announced they're getting rid of a lot of their international assets. The Late Show, certainly. And remember, they didn't just fire Colbert, they're canceling the show. Part of that is they're also planning on selling the Ed Sullivan Theater, because all of this is cost cutting. Is there politics involved with this? Absolutely. But it's not what people are yelling about. He wasn't fired because of politics. Politics is the only reason he still had the job. Colbert was on the verge of being fired back in 2016. And the only thing that saved him were his Trump. When he started going after Trump, and the liberals went, "Oh yes, we have to keep him." So yes, there's politics involved, but it was on the other side. Politics is why he had the job, not why he lost it. Now, you also mentioned 200 people. Yeah, there is absolutely no reason that that show needs 200 people to do the show. And
Can I just interject something about that?
go ahead.
How do you even have, I mean, 200, 100 is outrageous. To
100,
produce that piece of shit?
it is absolutely ridiculous. However, I am going to defend the show on the number of people because I am going to make an educated guess that roughly 3/4 of the people that work on the show are required to work on the show because of union regulations and union deals. When the writers went on strike last year or 2 years ago already, I think, one of the things they absolutely insisted on was an inflated number of people in the writers' room to write these skits. So you had those union deals that very obviously inflated the employee account of the show. Now, how many of those people were necessary? Well, I have it on good authority
50?
that the Gutfeld show, which competes with Colbert and
And destroys them.
routinely beats it. Let's call a spade a spade. The ratings for Gutfeld, which is on cable, is greater than the Tonight Show, the Colbert and Kimmel combined. And he has approximately 30 people putting that show together.
And that includes tech people like camera operators,
Yes.
all that stuff. I think you are correct, as always, with the union aspect of it. But I think there's also grandiosity. I think Colbert had an ego that had no bounds. And I think if you really probably were in that situation, he's probably a pain in the ass to work for, a prima donna. And I actually think that, yes, for the time being, the Tonight Show late night will be canceled, not only with Colbert, but others, and NBC, ABC. I actually think eventually some form of late night will come back. It's just a bad chapter of late night, not funny. And it's also, your analysis 100% correct. It's called low-hanging fruit. And I think with Colbert, yes, he sucked. He was not funny. I had no idea he came from the Daily Show, how he got that assignment to begin with, position that to begin with. But I also think he also not only benefited from Trump, but also benefited from COVID, because COVID, Trump, the whole thing, it was a perfect storm for incompetency or lack of talent, whatever you want to call it. But bon voyage. I want your comment on this. I think it's really funny. He goes, now the gloves are off against Trump. What have you been doing for the last 8 years,
right,
you friggin' moron?
Right,
That's all you do.
Like he ever had any gloves on to begin with. But Hollywood is rallying around him. In fact, there was an article in the Hollywood Reporter that says they actually expect, now that Colbert has been canceled, that he's actually going to win an Emmy now. Because, of course, God forbid, an Emmy should be given to somebody based on quality. And you were saying you didn't know how he got the job. I used to watch Colbert on The Daily Show, and he was he was funny on The Daily Show, but he suffered from something that I call Saturday Night Live syndrome. Colbert did 10 minutes on The Daily Show. and he was funny. He had a good 10 minutes. And then maybe, a couple of days later, he did another 10 minutes. But that doesn't mean he had the talent to do an hour-long show every night. The reason I call it the Saturday Night Live effect is because Lorne Michaels, who's long been the executive producer of Saturday Night Live, went through this incredible period where he would take absolutely hysterical sketches and try to make them into movies. And something that works for 3 minutes on television does not work for an hour and a half in a movie theater.
Yes, I would agree with that. Let me interject one other thought for your interpretation. I also think Colbert was playing a character on The Daily Show.
Yes,
I think that also is a factor. So it's not only he was not being himself, he was playing a character that has no traction, as you said, in an hour segment.
Yes, on the Daily,
like he was a bit player. That's what he was, and I think you're correct. Yeah.
Yeah, on the Daily Show, he played a character. Yes, that character was also called Stephen Colbert, so it did confuse a lot of people. But that was a character he played on the Daily Show, where he had to be himself on the Late Show. And this is not uncommon when a comedian takes over a late night show. We've seen it over and over again, where maybe they can do a funny monologue, but then the interviews over the course of the show are terrible because they have no interview skills. Being a talk show host is not like any other entertainment job. You have to be able to do skits. You have to be able to do a monologue. You have to be a skilled interviewer. And unfortunately, I can only name right now 4 people, 5 people that actually successfully pulled this off. And that's Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Arsenio Hall, Conan O'Brien, and Craig Ferguson. That's pretty much it.
Craig Ferguson was excellent, actually. 100% agree. Yes.
Yeah,
I think you mentioned Jay Leno.
I didn't mention Jay Leno because Leno, even in all the time he was doing the Tonight Show, he never got the hang of doing a real interview. He did great monologues. The skits were hit and miss, but he never got the hang of doing the interview part of it. So that's why I left Leno out of that list. But that being said,
you would have to say
Leno was head and shoulders above the current group of late night hosts.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to interject. I agree with you 100%. For all his shortcomings, he's not Leno's in a different stadium than these clowns. So very interesting, and of course, I don't think I'm ever going to watch it. I thought maybe it might be interesting the last week in May of 2026 to watch him, as he probably has a mental breakdown. Very interesting. Now, speaking of mental breakdown,
before we leave this one, there was also one other factor that was very important in CBS's decision, and nobody seems to be talking about this. For the past at least 3 years, possibly longer, so this has nothing to do with the Trump administration. This predates the Trump administration. The advertisers were leaving in droves. They could not get enough advertisers to cover the costs of this production.
Let me ask you, that's a very interesting point. And it's, something that only speculation, but don't you think there would be a degree of introspection with Colbert? Like, it's not funny. No one's watching it. Sponsors are leaving for the hills. Wouldn't it be, or how about management having kind of, hey, let's have a regroup, like a company. Hey, sales are declining. What are we going to do we'll come out with lemon tide. We'll do something. I mean, no, they just kept on going off the same cliff. It was amazing.
Here's the problem with how CBS has been run for the past quite a while. Prior to Sherry Redstone taking over and remerging Paramount and CBS. Paramount and CBS are not run like most public companies. The bulk of the stock is owned by another company, National Amusements. And National Amusements is completely controlled by the Redstone family. Now, prior to Sherry Redstone taking over, it was run by her father, Sumner Redstone.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 5 to 10 years that he ran it, he was pretty much non compos mentos. So it was an
He was in the
abs.
Biden league, correct?
He was very sick, and basically he was an absentee landlord. So instead of the news division of CBS, the entertainment division of CBS actually having to respond to management, they were able to just go about their political leanings with management not paying any attention because Sumner Redstone was permanently out to lunch. When his
So
daughter
it was an auto pen management team, is
yes,
what you're saying.
yes, it
Very good.
was. And then when
Well, go ahead.
when Sherry took over, she actually took over. She remerged the companies. She started getting involved in most of these decisions. Right now, she's the one that pushed for the merger with Skydance Entertainment. So it's a very different management situation now. And that also factors into why they said now, all right, we're getting rid of the late show. And there was also one other thing that factored into it, the date of the cancellation. Because remember, he's still going to be on for another season. Why is he on for another season? The end of that season coincides with the end of his contract. And they were just starting negotiations for his contract. So now is when CBS told him, "No, you know what? We're not going to negotiate your contract now. We're getting rid of the show."
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Speaking of a nicer guy, and possibly a little unhinged, we had the Hunter Biden interview. I think his finest interview. I did see the one on 60 Minutes when he was talking about sniffing Parmesan cheese. I think this is a whole new level of debauchery. And I'm not so sure he's completely clean. I'm just throwing it out there. And I think it's, before I throw it out there, I thought it was also hysterical that he said that crack cocaine is probably better than alcohol. So to put that in perspective, if I said, "Hey, Dr. Lopkin, I was going to have you over for a couple beers, watch the game, but, I'm taking Hunter's advice, and why don't you come over and we'll do some crack." Brutal. We'll get the pipe going. So your thoughts on the interview, or lack thereof? Must-see entertainment, correct?
It's an amazing interview. I think in total, this was like a 3-hour interview, but if you take out his swearing, it's about 20 minutes. Yeah, because that's all.
Wait, before you go on, hold on. Do you think he might have been on something? I'm just asking.
I honestly do. Watching it, he showed all of the indications that he was on something. Probably coked up. But the fact that he's now doing these interviews, and we're referring to this one interview, but he's done a number of others, really shouldn't surprise anybody. Because Joe Biden did a couple of interviews recently, and after every one of them, the Democrats went, "Oh, please just go away. We don't want to hear from you anymore. Every time you open your mouth, you're just making it worse." Well, if they completely shut down Joe Biden, Hunter has no money. The only job Hunter ever had was selling Joe Biden's influence.
Yeah, grifter.
Yes.
No, you're right. I think he's lost his not that anyone's going to hire him to be a lawyer. I think he lost his bar license too. I think so.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
felony.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 definitely. He did.
quite frankly, I had
Not that
forgotten he
anyone
had
was going
had
to hire.
one at but nobody
I
with
think
his reputation would ever hire him as a lawyer. The
you know what would
only
be funny? Wait. Do you know what would be funny? You have some poor guy, right? And he gets arrested in Philadelphia or something. And they have now your court appointed lawyer, Hunter Biden.
Oh
He'd say,
God.
well, I confess. No, I did it. I don't want to go to the
Yes.
electric chair. If the guy stole the purse and having Hunter as your lawyer, you might get the death penalty. But yeah, so I think it was funny. I think the Bidens are showing, how do you like this? Their true colors, to quote a Cyndi Lauper tune of the 80s. I mean, it's a white trash family. I mean, it is. I'm sorry, it really is. I'm not saying that loosely. The whole thing, they're a bunch of grifters. Dr. Jill, she got a doctor in education. Okay, that and 50 cents will get you a cup of coffee, all right? Just complete grifters. Hunter was sleeping with Bo's wife. It's just a train wreck for the world to see. Always has been, but now it's just really in focus.
The thing about the Biden family is that to them, the image of the family was always more important than anything else. Jill Biden actually insisted that people call her Dr. Biden. I know a lot of people with PhDs, and none of them ever insist on being called doctor. It was all about the image. And now that that image has been stripped away, they don't know what to do. And I'll be honest, it didn't surprise me when Biden started doing interviews, Joe, rather. It surprised me that Hunter actually did interviews, but what actually surprised me most is how quiet Jill Biden has been. She's actually the one I expected to be out there defending the family. Because quite frankly, she's the only one. Her reputation is shot, but at this point, she's the only one of them that can string 3 sentences together.
I don't know. She might have been hitting the bottle because she lived. Kidding. I have no evidence for that, obviously. But I'm sure she's curled up in a ball like Hillary was, although Hillary had the benefits of Chardonnay, because her whole world, like you said, was the Biden image. And now he didn't only just lose or step down. He has no reputation. And I'll throw that out in terms of reputations. We have Tulsi Gabbard and I know what you want to call it, the Obamagate. Mind-blowing. And I just want to set up a couple things. I'm going to have the doctor run with it. You have Hillary, you have Obama, you have people throwing around things like treason. You also have Molly Hemingway and Greg Jarrett, both very respectful people, called it the worst scandal in American history. You have the DOJ now having criminal referrals. And okay, I'll stop there. You run with it. And then I have just something else about the media involved with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's just go over the facts really, really simply. In December of 2016, after Trump was already elected, the intelligence services found there was no evidence of Russian collusion or Russian influence peddling to try to affect the 2016 election. Not only were those reports redacted so that any findings that there was no Russian interference were blacked out, but Obama was involved in meetings. I don't think Hillary Clinton was involved in the meetings at that point, but it was her, Crossfire Hurricane dossier that was the basis for all of this. Joe Biden.
Well, let me interject one thing about Hillary. Yeah, she might not have been directly involved in what you're saying, but she was on news shows, talk shows,
Yes.
knowing it was all, and was a bold-faced liar.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise.
And of course, she was doing that before the election as well. But Obama, Biden, and their intelligence people manufactured so-called evidence that there had been Russian interference in the election. Now, even with that, they were still forced to say that there was no evidence that the Russians succeeded in changing any votes. And the reason they had to do that is because the elections are actually controlled by the states. So they had no way to manipulate any reporting that was done on the actual vote tallies. But they still maintained. And Adam Schiff went on for years. This launched investigation after investigation at taxpayer expense, no less.
And crippled Trump's first term.
Yes, and all because they could not accept the fact that the American people did not want Hillary Clinton as president.
I think it's even deeper than that. I think I find this fascinating. I think when Trump was running in 2016, 2015, and he talked about the swap, it was just a tagline. Did he believe it? I'm not even so sure. Whatever. It just made good. It was good for rallies. But I believe that behind a lot of this is that they feared Trump because the deep state was at risk.
Honestly, I don't think up until election day they had any fear of Trump. I don't think they thought he had a snowball's chance in hell of becoming president. They
Yeah, but they
believed,
tried to sabotage. No, but okay, you're right. Very good point.
they
But they
believed,
did try to sabotage. No, they tried to sabotage it because they were fearful that business as usual would not be business as usual. They wanted to put the
yes,
the
they want,
governor on
they,
his initiatives.
right. They did want to stop any plans he would have had. But honestly, they had everything set so that they were convinced that Hillary Clinton was going to be coronated as the next president. Remember, the Democratic Party had already rigged the primaries for her. And as seen by lawsuit after lawsuit, filed by Bernie Sanders supporters, and Bernie Sanders himself has admitted, yes, the 2016 primary was rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. They didn't believe for a minute that they had anything to worry about until about probably 1 a.m. election day, when all of a sudden Hillary still had not been declared the winner. And then by 3 o'clock, she'd absolutely lost it. And at that point, and I think that's what makes this so insidious, because they didn't manufacture this evidence and subvert the intelligence findings during the election. They did it against Trump after he was already elected. This is
Much
what
worse.
This is what they weren't doing this to take out a candidate. They were doing it to take out the duly elected president of the United States.
Lopkin, I love it. I just need your input on one thing, among others. On a scale of 1 to 10, let's just say Watergate, everyone calls that a 10. What do you think this is?
At this point, Watergate's a 5.
Thank you. I was going to say maybe this is a 15. Yes. Watergate looks like a joke.
It's like I'm going to say Watergate is a 5. This is a 9.5. 10 is nuclear war.
Got it. Now, the analysis from Dr. Lopkin. Before I throw it out there, I just want to say, on a humorous note, when Tulsi Gabbard was doing the review and she was relaying on some documents from Russia, they basically their own intel claimed, this one your kind of quick comment on this before you dive into this further, is about Hillary. They called her unstable, prone to anger, and also highly medicated. So why do I say that? Because I'll throw it out to the bigger issue, and others you can run with it, is reputations. Let's talk about Obama, Hillary, Clapper, and then the Three Stooges. Let's just really focus on Obama first. We already talked for weeks and years maybe about his rapidly, and that's using it mild, declining legacy. What, and there's no such thing as, crystal ball, but if you were going to use one, how bad is it for him?
Obama's reputation, honestly, I'm sort of torn on this one because Obama's reputation has suffered so much damage. I'm not sure how much lower it could possibly go. If he had still had a sterling reputation, this would have killed it. As it is, I don't know that his reputation could be destroyed anymore. He's done.
Wait, hold on, real quick. I do disagree with you somewhat. No, hold on. Is because I think that his reputation as a leader, as a great government official, great president, that was down the shitter. I think the only thing he had was his moral authority, at least the perception of it. And I think this is the big flush for that.
Yeah, this destroyed his moral authority, but quite frankly, I think that Michelle is doing a great job destroying his moral authority with her podcast. So again,
that's true.
This is just piling on. And by the way, just a quick note to our listeners. Please, all of the documents in question are available online. Almost every news site has them posted. Go read them for yourself. Don't take our word for it. Go read the actual documents.
Good suggestion. Yes. I think, we were talking about the Obamas. I think this could be the final divorce declaration. I think that I think it's funny because the whole shtick was falling apart anyway. This just blows it up. I think Hillary, she might end up in a mental hospital because she went from the cat's meow, so to speak, 2015. I don't know. John Gotti's got a better reputation. It's bad. Well, everything she worked on her whole life, married to a guy she can't stand, the humiliation of affair after affair, all for nothing.
Yeah, she got nothing out of it. I mean, you compared her to John Gotti. I mean, in all fairness, when John Gotti killed somebody, he just killed them. He didn't make it look like suicide.
Yeah, I like that. Now, yeah, so so to wrap this part of it up, what do you think is going to be the end result? That's a really tough question. Do you think there will be actual criminal referrals? I think there may be for the Three Stooges, not for Obama and Hillary. Your thoughts?
Well,
Clapper, Brandon, Comey.
It has already been referred to the DOJ for investigation. Right, yes. Will they bring charges? No, I don't think Hillary or Obama are going to have any charges against him. There might be some charges brought against some of the lesser people, but given what happened in previous trials regarding Crossfire Hurricane, I don't think anybody's going to see a minute of penalty on this. I think a liberal Washington, D.C. jury, if it even gets that far, will go, no, we don't agree. They're in it, they're not guilty. Let them go.
I agree with that, but I think what's going to happen is a Comey on steroids, meaning in 2016 when he cited all the reasons why Hillary should have been indicted, but said there's not enough here. I think they're going to have, they're not going unscathed, and there's no free pass. They're going to list everything very formally. I'm talking Department of Justice, and saying, but we do not intend to pursue criminal charges on Hillary and Obama. I think, given the hatred of Trump, Comey, I wouldn't exactly say he's going to get a free pass. Brennan might take a bullet too, not literally, figuratively. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, if it manages to go to trial, I don't. Unfortunately, this has to be tried in Washington D.C., and I don't see a Washington D.C. jury finding for the Trump administration against these folks. So I think their reputations will be, dragged through the mud. They'll certainly never work again, but I don't think they'll get the punishment they deserve.
Maybe minor point, but do you agree with me that they'll have a formal reading to the Department of Justice of all the malfeasance of Obama and Hillary? Let's just focus on that.
Absolutely.
So it will be very damaging. Now, what I was shocked about, Dr. Lopkin, because the Steele dossier and other, let's just say, misinformation was leaked to outlets, in particular CNN, who ran with it like big dogs, Jay Tapper and the rest of those, and Humpty Dumpty and the rest of those idiots. I was shocked, and I'm really not just saying this for hyperbole. I mean, I'm really being honest. So I was watching Fox, preparing, taking notes for the podcast and so on and so forth, because I thought this was a breaking story, which it is. So I go, wow, it can be interesting. Let's see what CNN has. Essentially, reading between the lines, paraphrasing, it was like, kiddies, you can't watch this. This is a little too much for you, kiddies. Let us talk over the press conference and tell you what's really important. I found that shocking. Not only did they enable this thing, but they didn't have the ho-hos, the balls, to say, okay, here's the actual press conference with Tulsi Gabbard. Despicable.
Well, in terms of the media, I mean, the coverage of this has been ridiculous. There should have been so much more coverage about this. It is a major story, but the media won't cover it because they're the ones that hyped up Crossfire Hurricane in the first place. They allowed Adam Schiff to lie on the air with impunity. The New York Times and Washington Post got Pulitzer Prizes for their coverage of Crossfire Hurricane, which they still have not given back. So the media is not going to make a big deal out of it because it makes them look bad.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Dr. Lopkin, yes, I agree with you 100%, but this is not 2016. The media, I guess their approval rating might be 15% or something, right? Younger people in particular get their news in various fashions, streaming among others. I think this further, I don't know if it can go any lower. It's not going to help, especially CNN's reputation, because let's say a billion years ago, their whole foundation was the authority of news, or whatever the hell it used to be. It's just done. And you have to be a real moron. Before you go on, though, you have to be a real moron when you see a press conference, but people are not having that live feed, just the visuals, and they're talking about what they think. Obviously, you don't have to be a Mensa candidate to know they're covering up something. Hello.
Yeah, I mean, CNN and MSNBC's reputations were in the toilet to begin with. This isn't going to help any. But I think in terms of the media, they're basically just saying, well, you know what? We know we're irrelevant. We don't care. We're going to tell you what we want to tell you anyway. And in fact, and this actually goes back to where we started with Colbert. There was a great political cartoon about the cancellation of The Late Show. And the image is a couple sitting on a couch and their kid sitting on a chair next to the couch. And the woman is saying, well, Colbert was fired for political reasons. And the husband is saying, well, he was, lost $40 million a year, so they were getting rid of him. And the kid said, who's Stephen Colbert?
That's excellent.
That's
True. And that
that's
gets
the
back to the
same
point about
situation here. The younger generation, they don't care what CNN or MSNBC says. They don't even watch these networks.
and do you know who does? And you coined the phrase, the tour of the irrelevant or something?
Yes.
Yeah, your baby boomers. They're the ones so and demographically from an advertising perspective, their value's about 3 on a scale of 100. There you go. But speaking of deceitful people, we have Adam Schiff might have his little ass in a sling. Mortgage fraud, pretty straightforward.
Yeah, apparently.
Claiming Delaware primary residence. And by the way, let me ask you before you give your analysis, how can you claim Delaware as your primary residence when you're a senator in California? That doesn't completely jive.
Well, what I find so amusing about this isn't that Adam Schiff did this. It's how often this is now coming up, because this is exactly the same thing that Letitia James did. And it's what they actually tried to charge Trump with, that he didn't actually do. So this goes back to what we've been saying for years. Everything the Democrats accuse Trump of doing is what they have actually done.
But it is mortgage fraud. I mean, it's not just hyperbole or some bullshit, gray area. It's pretty straightforward.
This is a criminal offense. And at the very least, he needs to be censured by the Senate. He needs to lose his law license. And quite frankly, if they've got the evidence, they need to charge him and put him on trial.
I think it's going to happen. Do you know why I say so? Because Victor David Hansen did this. Trump doesn't give a shit. Now he cares about, being successful, I guess. He's not going to run again, unlike some Dems say in the media. So he hates this son of a bitch. Why wouldn't he put the screws to him? He's not going to let him just go. That ain't going to happen. It's clearly mortgage fraud. And you talk about how can you represent something? It's like, I don't know, someone's senator from Connecticut and their major or their actual house or first resident is in Delaware. You're not from Connecticut then. Well, plus the legal or financial ramifications, because a second home, you are charged a lot more interest than a primary residence. That's where the fraud is. And that's what he's guilty of. I think not only should he be censured, I think he should be impeached from the Senate. How do you like that? Censure is a bunch of bullshit.
Here's the problem. You have a jurisdiction problem. I don't think the Trump administration and the DOJ have any real jurisdiction over this. This has to be adjudicated, I believe, and I could be wrong, by the California Attorney General or District Attorney. Nobody who's in elected office in California is going to go after him.
Great point, Dr. Lopkin. Then censure would be a very apropos. Or couldn't he be thrown out of the Senate?
He could be thrown out of the Senate. We do now have precedent from the senator from New Jersey that they just removed. Last year? Yeah. And that was before he went on trial. So yes, they don't have to wait for a trial if they want to throw him out for this. It's very possible that the Republicans could do that. They do have control. I don't know if this is something that requires a simple majority or if they need the 60 votes. If they need the 60 votes, it's not going to happen.
My guess, and I do not know, I think it's going to need 60, but
probably.
That's just my guess. But just put him through that is good enough. But he don't need 60 for a censure. I think that's fine. That's good. I'm good with that. Just
Yeah,
drag this son of a bitch as much through the mud as possible. He's one of the most corrupt pieces of shit that ever reared his head in government. Just a despicable person.
yeah. I mean, he was lying about the Trump administration for years. He even, I mean, the what got me wasn't when he was lying about about Crossfire Hurricane initially. It was after the Mueller report came out and said there was no collusion. He was still going on news shows claiming he had evidence of collusion, which apparently never materialized. And not one reporter actually questioned him on it and challenged him to show the evidence.
True. And speaking of reporters or journalism or lack thereof, you have the Wall Street Journal. Looks like it was Steve Bannon said it was always been the spearhead of anti-Trump initiatives because it has the aura of, ooh, Wall Street Journal must be conservative, but it's always tried to nip at Trump's Achilles. And they might be in deep dog do as well, aren't they? Possibly.
Yeah, the Journal printed alleged letters to Jeffrey Epstein from Donald Trump. And now it's starting to look like those letters, first of all of the alleged files were leaked to the Journal, but now it looks like they were fraudulent in the first place and before, and sent to the Journal. So Donald Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal because they did not do their due diligence. And that's actually the key. If they had done their due diligence and said, yes, we have enough evidence to say this is accurate and print it, they would be fine. But because they did not do their due diligence on these documents, there's a strong possibility. Actually, I don't even think it'll get to court. I think the Journal will settle out of court the same way ABC and CBS have.
And you're talking some monumental potential fees or penalties. This is not going to be like, here's 50 cents, get out of jail. No.
No,
it's going to be made. I think it's going to be bigger than 60 Minutes, quite frankly.
I don't know if it'll be bigger than 60 Minutes. It's probably going to be up there. Assuming that things go the same way the ABC settlement did and the CBS settlement, Trump's not actually going to get any of this money. The money's going to go to the Trump Presidential Library, which at this point,
that's better.
Because of all of the lawsuits that the media has settled with Trump, all of that money going to the Trump Presidential Library, he's going to have a presidential library long before Obama's is ever completed.
Actually, I heard that Obama's presidential library is going to be turned into a Motel 6. There you go. Now, ending on a couple of humorous notes, Mayor Pete, the DEI poster child of politics, spent how much, Dr. Lopkin, on DEI initiatives?
Yeah, I don't know why you would label this as humorous, because there's nothing humorous about this story.
Guys are
Pete Buttigieg, as Secretary of Transportation, spent $80 billion on DEI programs, and more importantly, knew that the air traffic control system was desperately out of date and needed to be updated. And when he was asked by the airline industry about those updates, he literally told them, why would I update our equipment? That would just allow you to fly more planes.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Now, the natural question is, cutie patootie Mr. Mayor Pete, his political, I think he's at 13% in the polls for Democratic, the Democratic race for 2020, whatever, 28. What is his political future? I think it's pretty much
it's done.
Jurassic Park.
It's done. If he gets to the primaries,
Yeah.
then at least one candidate is going to run an ad saying he refused, because he refused to update the air traffic control systems, putting American lives in danger in favor of pushing his own agenda. Now, I don't think the Democrats will specify that it was a DEI agenda, but
No.
they will go against him, saying he pushed his agenda at the peril of the American people. He literally put lives in danger to push his DEI agenda.
Yeah, he's pretty much finished. I think he said the highway system was racist. I
Yes.
don't know how you could make that a conclusion, but a bigger mind than me. And then finally, we have the Kiss Cam. I think that was hysterical. I think the CEO of Astronomy, never heard of the company in particular, but they were out at Coldplay concert, which you should be arrested for anyway. And then they have the Kiss Cam that went around to the audience, and they kind of got busted in a big
They
way.
did. This was the CEO and the head of HR, which is
I love that.
why this became such a big story. Because of course, HR folks have been talking about, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this. Well, guess what? They did it. I'll be honest. I mean, the CEO has since resigned, but I'll be honest. If I were the CEO of Astronomer, I would be suing Coldplay. Because if the lead singer who was doing this, he was the voice, if he had said, oh, I guess they're shy, instead of, oh, it looks like they're shy, or maybe they're having an affair, this story would have had no legs.
Good point, Dr. Lopkin. That is the quintessential point, but I'd also say on a more minor point, and I'm not saying I would do any differently. If they reacted differently, probably no fish or foul.
Yeah,
but you're right.
If
Maybe
they had
they
reacted, maybe if they had reacted differently, if they hadn't done anything, if they just ignored the camera would have gone on to the next person, and nobody would have ever known who was on the camera.
100%. Well, Dr. Lopkin, excellent show. And you know something? As we are in the summer, my vacation, I think I'm really kind of psyched for what's coming in terms of material for Carnivore Radio. It can get really juicy.
Yeah,
especially with what's going on here. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, think about all of the stories that we didn't even get to this week.
Yes.
Multiple trade deals. The loss of Ozzy Osbourne, which was, unfortunate. There's so much going on, and there's only so much time to fill. It is absolutely
100%.
amazing. During the Biden administration, we could go weeks where we would struggle to find something to talk about. We haven't had that problem. We haven't had that problem in a long time.
We might have had 3 or 4 topics, and that was kind of almost on the boundary, meaning like, is it really all that good?
Right.
But you had no choice because there was nothing going on. What are we gonna talk about? Migration of birds? I mean, there's nothing going on. Good point, Dr. Lopkin. And we'll be back next week, and our listeners can contribute to the show, can't they?
Yes, we can. And yes, there's stories we have that we don't get to, but if there's any of them that are interesting to you, let us know. Go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page, message us there. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect. Message us there. Let us know what you're thinking. What issues are important to you? What do you want to hear us talk about? And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
See you next week.
We'll see you then.